So we're finished with do something, right? No, you got to keep doing something. You got to, do more. And we're going to kind of focus the do something idea and thought into Wednesday nights. So we're going to keep going for Wednesday nights. We'll take a break 2 or 3 weeks over the holidays. And we're going to keep going because we got people who want to come together and just worship together a little bit and then do something. We've got people quilting, and we have a choir building. That's awesome. And you're welcome to join us if you like. Come to practice on Wednesday night. And there might be some other things. Maybe you can come up with your own do something. The idea was to do something in your worship of God, to do something in your relationships with God's people, which is, His family is right here, to do something significant in reaching out to minister to other people. Because I wanted to give a chance for a couple more do somethings. Last Saturday evening we had such a beautiful worship together here in our facility, candlelight and music, and people shared a meal, and we had communion, and a lot of you shared some of the things that you were doing. So there's just all kinds of things happening. I didn't realize how much you guys are taking initiative to make a difference in your relationships with each other and with the community. So I had said, send in your emails. Give us an idea of what's going on. And there may be some things I'm not aware of, but I got a couple of those. And I just wanted to give a little bit of, airtime to what I received. First from Nam Lay. And Nam writes this. He didn't know I was going to read it. As I have promised, here's a quick write-up for you. In our small group, we spent quite a bit of time to figure out what we can do for our communities and our church. There were several ideas, but we were all leaning toward the idea that we should do something for the homeless, especially during this time of the year. Tony and Ramona teamed up with Tim and Pam to provide sandwiches to the homeless. Keith and Virginia provided some financial help for a needy family in our church. My wife and I decided to make 12 food packages for our friends in Pomona and Ontario. With her experience as a volunteer at the local food pantry, my wife organized each package with a tube of toothpaste, a toothbrush, a set of eating utensils, a roll of toilet paper, a cup, 2 large pop-up top cans of hearty chicken soup, and a loaf of whole wheat bread, a large jar of peanut butter. Now, nobody at church told them how to do that. They just did it because they're smart. And you guys are all smart. That's awesome. So on Sabbath morning last week, we drove around downtown Pomona on Holt Boulevard in Ontario, and we were able to hand out all of our gift packages in a couple of hours. We were also teamed up with Lorene and Brian to provide 10 keyboard stands and 2 guitar racks. Each rack would hold 15 guitars for our daughter's school in Watts. Lorene and Brian supported us with some funding, and I did all the construction work. So that was one small group. That's quite a bit, isn't it? So I hear Nam's going into the keyboard stand business. Thank you for sharing that with us. And the reason I'm sharing it is because I'm hoping that it will inspire some of you who are not doing much or not doing anything, you're just kind of in the rut, that you'll realize it's not that hard. And here's another one from Brian. Brian didn't know I was going to read this either. It may sound lame, but since Sylvia and I weren't part of a group, it was a little tougher to pool our resources for something big. Well, that's okay. We were thinking about how we often take for granted people we care about, and how at the height of the holiday season, people can and do get stressed out and feel unappreciated. So we sat down yesterday, and we spent about 3 hours writing personal notes to people to encourage them. We wrote to church members, former teachers, and co-workers who we thought could use a small dose of cheer to show them that their efforts don't go unnoticed. I mean, it may seem small, but do you know how much of a difference that makes when someone gets that in the mail? And at the end of a stressful day or a long day, whether it's been a good or bad day, you're tired, and then you read this note of encouragement. I mean, that's a real benefit to the person who receives it. I know, because Diane and I got one this week. Thank you, Brian and Sylvia. Appreciate that. So it doesn't have to be huge. It can just be something. Do What? Something. Got it. All right. So keep it up. Did you ever try to find out what your Christmas presents were before the big day arrived? Some of you read a little bit of this in the daily devotional, but I've expounded a bit for this morning. One Christmas, I got up with my brother in the middle of the night, it was Christmas Eve, to look at the glowing lights in the colored packages. We couldn't sleep because we were so excited that in a few hours, joyful bedlam would reign as we tore open our presents. Anybody experience that when you're little, you couldn't sleep on Christmas Eve? I mean, it's just like, look at the clock. It's 1 o'clock. It's 1:30. It's 1:33. Just goes on. Now I do that because I'm old. But when I was a kid, it was only Christmas Eve that I did that. It didn't start out as a mischievous mission. It's just we couldn't wait. So we found a couple of presents with our names. Our parents were asleep. And ever so carefully undid the wrappings in order to sneak a peek. Well, we thought it was carefully. I'm sure if my mom had looked at them later, she would have said, "Who's been into these presents?" Well, I was disappointed. I already knew the economy was down because the number of presents tagged for each of us, there were 5 kids in our family, was a lot less than the year before. The year before, we just had this huge pile of presents. This year, it was very meager. My dad was a plastering contractor, and you know how the construction business goes. So I was like, oh, come on. When I opened it, I really was disappointed. I knew we were going to get less, but what I discovered in my surreptitious venture was a stamp collecting album. Now, I did collect stamps, but come on. A stamp album for your main present at Christmas time? Are you serious? I mean, this would have qualified as a stocking stuffer, right? Or, that kind of thing, although you'd have to have a big stocking to stuff it in. And my brother and I tried to redo the wrappings so we wouldn't be found out. Fortunately for us, our mom and dad remained asleep, completely unaware of our escapade. Later that morning, when everyone was up and we had the official opening of the gifts, I was so surprised to discover a large battery-powered race car with my name on it. Now, that was a Christmas present. Now, in those days, there was no remote control unless you had it on a cord. Nowadays, kids get these things, they buzz around, fly around. You can buy a cheap helicopter, put a camera on it, and see what your neighbors are doing if you want. I would have liked that, too. That would have been fun. The very best Christmas present that has ever been given was Christ himself. God outdid himself when he wrapped this one up and laid it in a manger. How do you match that? But hey, we don't have to match it, do we? Because Jesus was the first of a never-ending stream of gifts. This is what Paul says in Romans 8. God did not keep back his own son, but he gave him for us. If God did this, won't he freely give us everything else? Won't he freely give us everything else? What God did for us in giving us his son should give us a clue as to how we can participate in real giving this Christmas. Real giving. There's a lot of giving going on, but we're talking today about real giving in the context of what God has given us. So this Christmas, real giving means you will, first of all, spend wisely. Now, I shared a form of this message a few years ago. It's a little bit different, but same text, mainly the same text and the same fill in the blanks. And back then I said, spend less. But I've thought about it since, and I think it should be spend wisely. Because if we spend less, then that would limit the idea of giving to money. And Christmas is already such a consumer-driven affair. Projected Christmas sales this year are around $586 billion. I don't know who figures this stuff up, but that's what I read. We all know that the Christmas economy is driven more by what we want than by what we give. You know what the average budget per family is in this country for spending on Christmas? I didn't know. This is the average now. $749.51. Really? How do they get that? Each kid gets $271. So if you have 2 kids, That's $542. That leaves only $208.51 to divide up for food, decorations, gifts for mom and dad and friends and enemies. You know, I want to be a kid again. Give me that $271. But all the money spent doesn't really give anything that satisfies, does it? Not really. In fact, unhappy givers and receivers will return several $billion worth of gifts immediately. If the store is open on Christmas Day, they're going to be taking stuff back on Christmas Day. So as we think of plopping down our resources this year for the holidays, consider what the prophet Isaiah wrote. Isaiah 55, verses 1 and 2. Come, all you who are thirsty. Come, buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without cost. He wasn't talking about eggnog either, okay? Why spend money on what is not bread and your labor on what does not satisfy? If there's something you want, if there's something you need, why use up your resources trying to get it from sources that really won't fill the need? Buy wine. I love that. I grew up a Seventh-day Adventist, and we didn't drink wine. I don't want to say we couldn't, that would imply that I wanted to. I didn't. Just to get the record straight. By wine, which Isaiah means to be the pure life of God, the pure life of Christ. By milk, that's the most basic form of nutrition. By milk, it's the nutrition of His Word. Get Jesus, buy Jesus, get some Bible in your life this Christmas season, because that's going to satisfy you. And guess what? It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost us anything. It costs God everything. Think about the culture of Christmas. It's overflowing with excess and self-indulgence. We can just fit into this culture because we admire it, or because it's what we're used to, or because we're afraid to go against it. We're afraid we won't look good to other people. Or we can focus on the kingdom of Christ and ignore the culture and live by His values, His ethics, His love. His kingdom is authenticated by God, not by worldly power, not by wealth, not by security. His birth and ministry shows that He's unimpressed with worldly systems and kingdoms, and by the way, with gaudy Christmas gifts. The values of Christ's kingdom are built around being satisfied on the inside so that we really have something to give. Now I came up with a paraphrase for Isaiah 55. This is from the Benson version. It's not official and it's not in print. And here's what it is. Listen up, you Christmas shoppers. Why are you running from Target to Walmart, from Costco to Home Depot, looking for something that will satisfy you or a family member? Don't you know that in a month or two, all that stuff will end up in a drawer or under the bed or broken or exchanged? Don't you see that the pure love of God as it comes to you, as it flows through you, is what's needed? You can't put a price on that. It's offered to you freely, even though it's the most expensive gift ever given. Don't waste your future on things, because in the end, you'll still be left unsatisfied. So how do we spend more wisely? It's okay to give gifts. Don't start thinking that I'm going to say, don't spend any money on Christmas gifts, because I know you're going to do it whether I say to or not. You're going to do it anyway. And this isn't about how you celebrate the holiday that we call Christmas. But in this season where we are tempted, where we are pressured to do all kinds of crazy things beyond our means and beyond our abilities, because we want to fit in, we want to look good, think about what's of greatest value in the kingdom of God. Really, when you think about giving gifts, it's really gotten simple. Most people just want a gift card. Did you know that? That's actually true. Most people want a gift card for Christmas. I think it was like 59% of those surveyed said they wanted a gift card. Now that just blows my mind, The whole idea of gifts is like it's surprise and, you spend time thinking about what they want. Now it's just like, go grab a card and give it to them. I mean, save yourself the trouble. You can buy gift cards online. You don't even have to go out shopping for it. Then they can get their own presents. And then, think about it. Instead of spending $250 on your kids, buy 5 gift cards. Well, I know a lot of you don't have 5 kids, but here's the way you do it. You buy 5 gift cards, $50 each. And a $50 gift card in the hands of a child, they think of it, I would have thought of it as a great gift when I was a kid. So now you got 5 presents instead of 1. You understand the math there? Anyway. Seriously, what can we get that will help us to give? Here's what Jesus says through the revelation of John, a verse that many of us know very well. He's standing and knocking at the door of human hearts. And he says, here's what I want you to do. Buy your gold from me, gold that's been through the refiner's fire. Then you'll be rich. Buy your clothes from me, clothes designed in heaven. You've gone around half naked long enough. And buy medicine for your eyes from me so you can see, really see. See, the gold that we can get from Jesus is the pure love of Christ that he's shown us. And he says it will make you rich. Then you won't have to worry about what you're going to give for Christmas because you'll have all the riches you need to give to others. And he says, buy your clothes from me, clothes designed in heaven. You'll look good too. Not because you're wearing designer outfits, but because God clothes you in his righteousness. You won't have to put on a show. You won't have to put on a fake face, whether it's at Christmas time or any other time. And then he says, buy salve for your eyes, buy ointment for your eyes so that you can see the way I see. Then you'll be able to look at people as you talk to them and interact with them. You'll be able to understand a little better what their needs really are. And because you're so rich with the love of Jesus, you'll be able to know how to minister to them. Kind of like a simple thing of writing a card out and mailing it to somebody that you think might need an encouragement. That's a gift from God. A gift from the love of Christ. And we could build a list of 1,000 things like that. The second thing that you can do this Christmas to have real giving in your life is this: give wholeheartedly. Now, originally when I shared this message in a different form, I got the idea from Keith. Keith and Virginia aren't back yet, is that correct? And so Keith, a few years ago, before he became sick, I noticed one Sabbath that he was looking more trim and slim than he had in a while. So I said, Keith, you've lost some weight. He says, what? I said, what's your secret? He said, well, it's a special diet I discovered, and here's how it goes. Eat less, move more, So I thought, that's a good one. And when I was preparing the message a few years ago, I thought, well, spend less, give more. That makes sense. But like I said, I thought about it, and instead of spend less, it's spend wisely. Make sure you get the real stuff that you need, which is the love of Christ and the strength and the goodness of his word. And then give wholeheartedly. Give wholeheartedly. It's not just about things when we give. Give with your entire heart. Paul puts it in this light. He says in 1 Corinthians 9, verse 6, you must each decide in your heart how much to give. And don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure. I like that. That's a rule for Christmas giving. Don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure. You ever feel pressure to give a Christmas gift? Anybody? Raise your hand. I want to see, because I want to know if I'm the only one here. No, I'm not. You feel pressure to, Paul says, Don't do that. Now, I know he's talking about giving to the church, but the church is no different than everybody else. When we give, the best gift comes from people who want to do it. So he says, don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure, for God loves a person who what? Gives cheerfully. This is supposed to be a season of joy, right? Joy to the world. You know, we've been singing that song at North Hills for I don't know how long, probably 10 years. Nobody else has that song. I love that, you know. I mean, they have Joy to the World, but that version. Joy to the world. Giving that comes from joy inside. And the cheerfully part really can be translated literally hilariously. Give and laugh about it. You don't give and then go, man, I don't have the money to do that. Oh, that hurt. So that's how some people give when the offering plate goes by. It's like, okay, I'll put it in this time. But boy, I don't know. How do I give this money? That's not. You know, years ago, I can't remember his name, but Varner, you know, he used to really talk about this. And he said, you know, when the offering plate goes around, there ought to be ripples of laughter in the congregation. Because we're giving hilariously. We're giving from so much joy because it's our desire to give. Give wholeheartedly. Giving wholeheartedly means that you're really into it. It's not something you're doing because you have to or because someone else expects you to or because you're afraid of what people will think of you if you don't. It's just really from the heart. That kind of giving is full. It's not only full, it's overflowing. It's a real blessing. And you know what's awesome to me is that that's what's happening here at North Hills. I see it more and more. I mean, there's so much that goes on that I'm not aware of. And yet I start getting a sense that value that Christ showed to us has caught on here at North Hills. I love it. I love it. Don't give till it hurts. Give till it tickles your funny bone. You know? It's a realization that in sharing our lives with others, our time, our money, our skills, our influence, our compassion, we really are the ones who are blessed the most. Because when we do it wholeheartedly, guess who we're doing it for? The person may need a meal. They may be on the street. There may be somebody who doesn't have enough clothes. Maybe somebody needs some help. They need some time, compassion. They need a prayer for healing. The person may be presenting there, but you know who's behind that person? When you do something for somebody in need, when you share, when you give, who are you doing it for? You're doing it for that person, but you're really doing it for Jesus because he identifies himself with people who are in need. The king will reply, Matthew 25:40. The king will reply, I tell you the truth, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did it for who? For me. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did it for me. And I think somewhere in that passage is the verse that is the text that's printed on our food labels for the food that we hand out, because that's the value that we've owned in sharing food with people in our community. That's what motivates us. We want to be on the side in that last day when Jesus comes to judge the earth. We want to be on the side that identifies with his heart. And it's really not about how many bags of groceries you handed out, how many whatever pieces of clothing you handed out, how much money you gave. It's not about the stuff itself. It's about our heart, because the people who he says, I never knew you to, those people say, well, we did that and we tried to do those things. And he says, I don't know you because your heart's not into it. You're not giving wholeheartedly. You're not giving with a desire to see somebody's life blessed. You're just giving because, who knows, obligation, sense of duty, whatever it might be. Whatever it might be. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers, sisters, these children of mine, you did it for me. So I found a video that I think kind of characterizes what I'm trying to share with you today. And I want to show that right now. Hopefully you catch that Christmas spirit, and then we'll bring our time to a conclusion. Let me give you a new command, Jesus says. Love one another. In the same way I loved you, you love one another. This is what we can give when we receive it. Better than a gift card, better than a present wrapped in gold foil. How Christ has loved us is the gift that enables us to give. Give our time, our energy, our attention, our compassion, our assistance, our prayers, our love. That's real giving.